He's doubting my words like he needs some proof. Plus he struggles with the idea of absolute truth. He won't practice those things which he don't esteem. He hates absolute truth, then he's a supreme being. Since he has no standards, then he has no answers. His contribution in life is just prostate cancer. I try to answer the questions he throws my way. Hopefully another man will be born today.
Okay, I feel like there's no hiding this. Like, they know we're Christians. You know what I mean? The jig is up. Like, they know that we love Jesus, that we live for Jesus, that we believe the Bible is true, that we live for the glory of the Lord. So, like, I just want to throw it out there. They know. But I think probably what confuses people the most is seeing, like, young dudes, kind of like average dudes. I mean, you guys be average. I'm messing, but, like, young dudes, you know what I mean? Like, talking, like, living for Jesus, like, being Christian, like, you don't see that. Like, you don't see men, period. And just, like, kind of looking at a stat, and it said between the ages of 18 and 29, 70% of men leave the church. Most of them will never come back again. And because 0 through 18, they were there because mommy told them to go. And then 29 plus, they're there because their wife or their lover, you know what I mean, whatever it is, tells them to go. So it's like we definitely see a huge issue that, like, men are not at churches. Like, churches are majority women and all this type of stuff. So, like, let's talk about that. Why don't men go to church? Put it on the board.
I would start by saying just like really seeing the influence of the American society on individuals or people and creating an individual mentality. Like, I can try out this church like they're mid-Christian. Like, I can go here, if it doesn't satisfy me, I'm gonna check out the next place. It's just like this fast pace. I have to be fulfilled if it doesn't suit my desires, or whatever it may be. That's just one among many factors. But I think just the individualism of our day and age has really affected the men going to church.
Yeah.
Like, they don't see the assembly of people as important. It's all about me. So,
yeah, I think society is definitely the biggest role, plays the biggest role in it. Like, I feel like men see manhood as being strong and not needing anyone to help you. And so going to church would make you appear to be weak, right? Like, going to church to kind of seek the Lord's help, or going to church to have a community. And like, it's like kind of like this picture of, I'm a man, I'm macho, and I can do this thing. So I feel like that's one of the reasons that come to mind when I think of why men don't go to church.
I think definitely, like, just as a kid, I remember me being that guy who went to church, you know, on Sundays, made me the good boy. And then because I was labeled the good boy, I wasn't related to the guys who seemed to be tough at school, or, you know, were really good at sports or anything like that, which I was kind of nice at basketball. But at the end of the day, but I'm just saying, it was just that reality that, like, that wasn't a proper picture of being strong or or being tough anyway. So I think a lot of times men get as when they're in boyhood, get influenced a lot by their friends to say that going to church is something for weak and needy people. But I think the reality of it is, for the Christian, is to realize that all humans are weak and needy people compared to a God who has everything. So at the end of the day, like, you're not going to church as if you're in need of something that somebody else isn't in need of. Like, we all need this. We all need this truth. We all need God. So I think it's just about men rejecting that false, you know, understanding that church is for the women who, you know, on their own who need it. So I guess women to be in heaven by themselves.
Also, football's on Sunday.
That is one of the reasons, though. Yeah, let's talk about that, though. But, like, it's like football's on Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, it's either football or God. I take football. You know what I mean? So it's like, we don't, like, church is not a priority. So I definitely feel like that's a big issue that I feel like we need to address, because end of the day, like, if you don't have the Lord, you have nothing. You know what I mean? Like, football is just a game. First of all, A, you're not playing. You know what I mean? I think when you get that straight, you're not playing the game. B, the team don't even care about you. You know what I mean? And just like, it's real. Like, it makes me so mad that we'll give our lives to a sport, but when it comes to God, we don't even care. So I really feel like football plays a huge factor in it. You know, like, well, I would go to church, but, you know, I'm going to go to the game, you know. No, I don't know what you mean. Go to church, you know, but I definitely feel like it's a huge issue. And I just kind of want to throw it out there, like, so I I feel like we all agree that men need to be at church. So like, how does that even change the church game? Like, how does it change the atmosphere of the church when they have strong male leaders there? So let's kind of talk about that. Like, how does it change the entire church by having strong men?
I think it makes the church as a whole better, in the sense that, not to say that women, like we talked about as far as with the manhood and what different roles that men and women play, I think the lack of men is making women feel as if they have to fill those roles that men should be playing.
That's good.
So at the end of the day, you get a lot of little boys being risen up in a church full of women, and that's the only example they have to look to is other women. So you get boys who grew up, acting effeminate, and it's not even their fault. It's all they saw.
Yeah.
All they saw of a true Christian was a true Christian woman, and they never got a chance to see a solid biblical man raise them up in a manly manner. And that's just an improper view of what church should be like. Church should be full of men teaching men, and full of women teaching women, and doing it cross-gender a lot of times creates problems.
I think it's kind of a chain reaction, right? So in there not being biblical men in the church, the women compromise what their standard is for who a spouse should be. And in that, then they kind of will look to either nominal believers or non-believers, and then they kind of get pulled away from the church, right?
That's good.
And so in that also, then the next generation, the next child is not being led by biblical father and mother, right? So I feel like it affects not only the men, but it also affects the women in a lot of ways. So it affects the whole body of Christ.
That's good.
And I think that's why there's order. God is a God of order. Biblical headship, as we've talked about. Men leading, men being responsible, and women coming alongside that. But seeing men, that's the order. Men leading. So
Yeah.
I think that's the most simple point I get from that.
Yeah. I think we can just sum it up like this. Men go to church. Men lead. Men take responsibility. Church isn't whack. I hate when people say God is lame. God invented cool. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about here? So you definitely feel like this. I definitely said we can all agree that there's a drastic need for men to go back to church and lead and be the leaders that God's called them to become.
Yeah.